Welcome back, Music Maniacs, to another episode of Gibbs Drops the Needle, your one-stop spot for all things music. It is the end of the week, this week of August 15th of 2026, so we are going to go through the charts today and see what's moving up, what's moving down, and what's staying the same. Starting with the Billboard Hot 100, which is for the singles, the top 10 over there. Starting at 10 is Be Her by Ella Langley. This moves down one spot from last week. It's peaked up at number 2 and been on the charts for 25 weeks. Moving down a couple spots is So Easy to Fall in Love by Olivia Dean. Last week it was number 7, this week at number 9. Peaked up at number 5 and has been on the charts for 45 weeks. Also moving down a couple spots at 8 is Dracula by Tame Impala and Jenny. Last week, this was the number 6 song on the Hot 100. It's peaked up at number 5 and been on the charts for 45 weeks. Moving down a few spots to number 7 is I Can't Love You Anymore by Ella Langley and Morgan Wallen. Last week, this was the number 4 song. It peaked at that number 4 position and has been on the charts for 15 weeks. Moving down one spot is Boston by Stella Lefley at 6. Last week, this was the number 5 song, has peaked up at number 3 and been on the charts for 18 weeks. Moving down a couple spots is I Knew It, I Knew You at 5 by Taylor Swift. Last week, this was the number 3 song, peaked at number 1 and has been on the Hot 100 for 9 weeks. Debuting on the Hot 100 list is Pedal by Ariana Grande. So obviously it's peaked at this number 4 position and been on the charts for 1 week. Moving down a spot is Ben By Now by Morgan Wallen at 3. Last week this was the number 2 song, peaked at that number 2 position and has been on the charts for 2 weeks. Moving up quite a bit of spaces here. At number 2 is Hate That I Made You Love Me by Ariana Grande. Last week this was the number 8 song, so it's moved quite a bit here. Peaked at number 1 and been on the charts for 10 weeks. And still holding that number 1 spot for what I believe's been over a month and a half now is Choosing Texas by Ella Langley. And it's been on the Hot 100 for 42 weeks. So it is continuing to extend that record-breaking streak. Moving over to the Billboard 200, which is for the albums, the top 10 over there, starting with number 10, is Stick Season by Noah Kahan. Last week this was also the number 10 album and peaked all the way up at number 2, has been on the Billboard 200 for 193 weeks. Moving down a spot is Thriller by Michael Jackson at number 9. Last week this was the number 8 song, peaked at number 1 and has been on the Billboard 200 for 730 weeks. Swapping spots with Thriller at number 8 is The Art of Loving by Olivia Dean. Last week this was the number 9 album, peaked up at number 3 and has been on the charts for 45 weeks. Staying put at 7 is One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. Peaked at number 1, has been on the charts for 179 weeks. Also staying put is Iceman by Drake. It has peaked at that number 1 position and been on the charts for 12 weeks. The Great Divide by Noah Kahan also stays put. It peaked at number 1 and has been on the charts for 15 weeks. Dandelion by Ella Langley continues the trend of staying put at 4. Peaked up at number 1 and has been on the charts for 17 weeks. Moving down a spot is You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love by Olivia Rodrigo. Last week this was the number 2 album, has peaked at number 1 and been on the charts for 8 weeks. Getting knocked out of its number 1 spot from last week is I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen. It peaked up at that number 1 spot and has been on the Billboard 200 for 64 weeks. And debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 is Pedal by Ariana Grande. Obviously debuting at this number 1 spot and being on the charts for 1 week. I believe that is one that we mentioned would probably make an impact on the charts from New Music Friday when we announced the release. So made a big impact jumping up to that number 1 spot. Now moving on to the Global 200, which is again for singles. We have a lot of new songs that hit the top 10 this week. Number 10 is a song that's been on the top 10 for a little while now, and that's Stupid Song by Olivia Rodrigo. Last week this was the number 8 song, so it moved down a couple spots here. It peaked at number 1 and has been on the charts for 8 weeks. Moving down a few spots here, at number 9 is Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Last week this was the number 6 song, peaked at number 1, and has been on the charts for 156 weeks. Number 8 is a new song on the charts, and that is Oh Well by Ariana Grande, debuting at this number 8 position. Also by Ariana Grande is 7 with Stay, debuting at that number 7 spot. Moving down a spot at number 6 is Beauty and a Beat by Justin Bieber featuring Nicki Minaj. Last week this was the number 5 song, peaked at number 1, and has been on the charts for 17 weeks. Number 5 is another new one by Ariana Grande. It's Kiss Me, debuting at that number 5 spot. Moving down a couple spots on the Global 200, but staying put at number 1 on the Hot 100 is Choosin' Texas by Ella Langley. Last week this was the number 2 song and has peaked at that number 2 position and been on the charts for 41 weeks. Number 3 is Day Day, the FIFA World Cup official song of 2026 by Shakira and Burna Boy. Last week this was your number 1 song on the Global 200, peaked at that number 1 spot, and has been on the charts for 11 weeks. Number 2 is another song that is new by Ariana Grande, so she is really owning the Global 200 top 10 here. Debuting at that number 2 spot is the track Pedal. And moving up a couple spots to hold that number 1 spot is Hate That I Made You Love Me by Ariana Grande. Last week this was number 3, has peaked at this number 1 spot and been on the charts for 10 weeks now. So Ariana Grande obviously owning a lot of the top 10 spots, at least on the global charts here. Now we will move over to the Artist 100. So the top artists collectively throughout the week. The top 10 starts out with Noah Kahan, who moved down a couple spots. Last week he was number 8, peaked up at number 1, and has been on the charts for 157 weeks. Moving up a spot at 9 is Bruno Mars. Last week he was number 10, peaked up at number 1, and has been on the charts for 610 weeks. Also moving up a spot is Taylor Swift. Last week she was the number 9 artist, has peaked at that number 1 spot, and been on the Artist 100 for 628 weeks. Staying put at 7 is Luke Combs. He's peaked up at number 1 and been on the Artist 100 for 492 weeks. Moving down a spot is Drake. Last week he was the number 5 artist, peaked at number 1, has been on the charts for 630 weeks. Also moving down a spot at 5 is Michael Jackson. Last week he was the number 4 artist, peaked at number 1, has been on the Artist 100 for 542 weeks. Also moving down a spot at number 4 is Olivia Rodrigo. Last week she was the number 3 artist, peaked at number 1, and has been on the charts for 228 weeks. Continuing the trend of moving down a spot is Ella Langley at 3. Last week she was the number 2 artist, peaked at number 1, and has been on the Artist 100 for 100 weeks. And your number 1 artist of last week moved down to number 2, and that is Morgan Wallen. He's peaked at that number 1 position and been on the Artist 100 for 387 weeks. And your number 1 artist this week, which is no surprise considering that she pretty much owned the top 10 on the Global 200 and had some songs on the Hot 100 as well, and that is Ariana Grande. I believe her album also made the Billboard 200. So she moves all the way up from that number 12 spot to this number 1 spot and has been on the Artist 100 for 555 weeks now. So that is all the charts that we're going to go through today For the week of August 15th of 2026, we had quite a bit of movement actually this week after seeing things pretty much stay the same there for a little bit. Ella Langley obviously still holding that top spot on the Hot 100, but on the other charts we saw quite a bit of movement, especially with Ariana Grande. So tune in next week to see if she can continue holding all of that spot and have the chart dominance that she had this week, or is something else going to come along and knock her out of all that popularity for this week. So that will be interesting to find out next week with the charts that we'll go through there. That's all I have for you on this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, follow, do all the good things to help me out. Until next time, I'm Gibbs. This is Gibbs Drops the Needle. Stay safe and be kind.